All right, so here's what I want you to do, okay? You're producing the show tonight. It's a special episode, okay? So I'm going to give a countdown and I'm going to answer the call of so many of the Apter chatters to start the show on this special 25th anniversary, the 25th episode. Okay, so I'm going to do the countdown and I will start the show. You're the producer. Know your role. Listen to me. You got it? Here we go. Five, four, three, two. Hello,
Welcome,
everyone.
everybody, to the After Chat. Oh, hey, Bill.
Josh,
Hey.
I thought I was opening the show.
Oh, the producer just sent me a text, said, hey, make sure you open the show.
Hold on a minute. What did you? Thanks a lot. Well, no, do not pick your check up on Friday. Well, hi, Josh, and a welcome. I mean, this is an anniversary show for us. It's 25th episode.
Yeah, this is what is that, like silver, diamonds? I don't know.
I don't know what it is, but I want to thank you for the chocolates, and the flowers really weren't necessary.
Oh, yeah, I didn't send you anything, so
Wait, you
that's
didn't
weird.
send me anything.
No.
Okay, let me go and pull the card here.
Okay.
Dear Bill, happy 25th anniversary. This is the 25th episode. Congratulations to you and Josh, but I wanted you to have these chocolates and flowers. And it's signed Wonderful Willie. I sent it to myself.
I was going to say
all.
that just took a turn.
Hey, welcome. And you have listened, 25 episodes. We've had a great time. We've got some great sponsors with us. We've got the greatest fan base of any damn podcast out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, it's been, when you think back 25 episodes, of course, kicking things off with Hulk Hogan, and from there, just name after name after name.
Wait, I have to do my Black Scorpion imitation. Then we had Sting.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, but no, and then kind of the newer format that we've done that people have really seemed to be digging was the, talking about specific topics. And today's topic, of course, we're going to talk about tag team wrestling, and
we got a
tag
million.
teams.
We got 1.5 million
At
well,
least.
half a million responses to that great tweet that the Apter Chat production team sent out there. And oh yeah, so you know what?
What?
As they say on the pod waves,
Mm-hmm.
let's not waste any more time. But congratulations on being my co-host and putting up with me for 25 episodes as well.
Well, I think same can be said on my end. So
It's not an easy task on either side.
no, but hey, to 25 more, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So right now, I suggest that we open up the pages of the Apter Chat and tackle Headlock on headlines.
All right. Headlock on headlines. Bill, what do you have?
Well,
in your
I
notes?
have, starting off, there's a lot going on, but the news this week that two of the mainstays of Impact Wrestling, Abyss and Sanjay Dutt, are going to WWE.
Yeah, that is the rumor at this point. I haven't seen anything confirmed. Have you seen anything that's completely confirmed?
I have not.
Okay.
I will reach out to Abyss
Mhm.
to find out, because we do have well, actually, you're going to see Abyss tonight.
Yeah, so I will be part of the broadcast team for Modern Vintage Wrestling's Bruiser Brody Cup, which will be live on Fight TV at 8:30. So check that out if you get a chance, or if you think to yourself, oh man, I haven't heard Josh talk enough today. You'll get to hear me the entire time. But yes, Abyss will be facing a longtime rival of his in that promotion, Mecha Mercenary. And now the rumor going around is that this could be one of his final non-WWE matches. But I think at this point there's still so much speculation But yeah, I'll see him. I'll ask him what's going on. And
Well, generally, I don't like to report on rumors,
mhm.
but for him to leave here, and he's been wrestling for so many years. I remember interviewing him at Burt Prentice's USA Wrestling when he first started in Nashville, Tennessee, and he was just known as Seven at that point.
Wow.
And he was a great talent. You know who he's always reminded me of?
Who?
Terry Gordy
I
from the
can, you know
Fabulous
what? I can see
Freaks.
that with the mask off even more.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Definitely, but want to wish him lots of luck because if he's looking to retire in the next few years, I think the Monster Abyss will, or under whatever character he becomes, will be great in the
Hmm.
WWE. And I think this is also, and we'll talk about this other headline in a moment. I think also it might be a great way for WWE to keep him away from possibly being romanced by AEW. But we'll talk about that. I also want to mention Sanjay Dutt.
Hmm.
And did you hear he was on the national news all week this week?
I actually heard from you. You told me I hadn't seen that before.
He was stranded on that airplane somewhere for like 18 hours, and they interviewed him. They didn't say he was a wrestler, but
Hmm.
it popped up everywhere that Sanjay Dutt was now a national figure. He was on one of the CNN shows. What's the oh? I watch it, and I can't remember his name every night, like 8:30, 9 o'clock on CNN.
That doesn't bode well long term for you.
Oh, come on. What's his name here? Hold
I don't know. You're
on.
the one who watches it. I don't know.
I know. Hold on a minute. I can't believe that I
Dude,
don't know.
while you're thinking about that, do you think that that 18-hour flight, maybe he had some time to think about his career and thought, you know what, maybe I should take that WWE offer?
I don't know. He was on his way to Hong Kong. I know that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm curious to know about him, though, if we're going to be seeing him in 205 Live or seeing him more as a producer role, because that's kind of what he'd been doing for Impact as of late.
That is absolutely correct. I think he will start off as Anderson Cooper. That's
Anderson,
who it is.
God,
Oh,
okay.
it's driving me crazy. Now you know who I'm talking about
Yeah.
on CNN. Oh boy. Okay, so no, I think the WWE is not looking for let's bring somebody else in who is a producer somewhere else. They have their production team, their producers, etc. I
Well,
think
when I say producer, I'm talking like that's what they call their agents now.
oh well
Yeah, I
no,
don't mean
I
like
don't
the television producer. I
no
mean
no
like
okay,
the
no, I got it. I got it, but no, I don't think they'd bring him in as an agent either because they haven't he hasn't been tested in their waters.
okay. Oh, I
You
think
can
that's
have a
fair.
great reputation coming from another company, but unless you're
Well,
tested, I think he'd be brilliant at the performance center.
yeah, but what about like a guy like Adam Pierce though? He's working as one of their producers, and he never did anything with them.
No, no, but they tried him out in various roles.
So you
I
think
believe.
maybe that could be a thing? Sanjay Dutt can be coming in, and they can just be trying him out. Maybe he'll just kind of float around for a while and see what
Yeah,
fits.
yeah,
Or
because I think that's what happened with Adam Pierce.
okay.
By the
Either
way,
way,
by
yeah.
the
I'm
way,
sorry.
did you go ahead? I'm sorry.
No.
Go.
Okay. Um, no, I was gonna say either way, for Abyss and for Sanjay Dutt, it's really they had kind of become household names to wrestling fans 10 years ago, and it's really cool to be able to see them finally reach the WWE, which is still at this point in time the top of the game. And what's interesting to me is I think a guy like Abyss, so you talked about locking him up so he couldn't go to like an all elite wrestling. I I don't think I think he's more valuable to the WWE than to AEW. I think had he shown up in AEW, you would have been like, okay, this feels a little TNA ish. Whereas he feels like he's getting this whole new lease on life with
Well, he could have
WWE.
gotten a new lease on life in AEW
Oh,
as well,
absolutely. But I just
because
mean from the start,
they couldn't
how it
have brought him
feels.
in probably as Abyss.
No, I believe they can. He has the rights to Abyss.
Well, then they could have, but I think WWE would reinvent him, and he would be in WWE a matchup of he against Braun Strowman or even Brock
Yeah.
Lesnar would really be
And and
very
that might
compelling.
be something that they see in him, is the ability to come in and kind of pass on his knowledge to some of the big guys, like a Braun Strowman, or a Lars Sullivan, some of these guys that are still relatively green. Bring someone like Abyss in there, who has worked with everybody. I mean, you look at the WWE's current roster, and it's basically the who's who of TNA 10 years ago. So Abyss has worked with all
Oh
of
yeah,
those
yeah.
guys: Kurt
That's
Angle,
why
AJ Styles, Samoa Joe.
that's why I always call it NXT NA. I always call it that. And by the way, Lars Sullivan is not green; he's Caucasian. Change the color on your TV set, Josh. The hue.
Wow,
That's what it is. That's what
man.
it is. All right. So moving on now, the WWE was they ran their conference that they do the a few days before
Mm-hmm.
NXT Takeover, and Triple H was asked by one of the reporters, and I don't remember who it was offhand, about AEW, and also why are they not running NXT directly opposite the Ring of Honor New Japan show at Madison Square Garden that weekend. Instead, it will be opposite the Hall of Fame. So I have the statement here, which I'd like to read to everyone.
Please do.
Okay, so from what I printed out here on on the NXT Takeover conference call, Triple H was asked by Jason Powell about the change of dates over WrestleMania weekend, whereby Takeover switched with the Hall of Fame without mentioning any anything else. So Triple H said it was about not making fans choose what they wanted to go and see, which is an interesting point, this writer said, with Ring of Honor running a show at Madison Square Garden. More interestingly, though, this report says, Powell brought up the elephant in the room of All Elite Wrestling and asked if it changes anything with NXT. So Triple H said, and this is the first, Josh, if I believe, that the WWE has acknowledged All Elite Wrestling
Mm-hmm.
publicly, correct?
That's first I've heard. Yeah.
Yeah, Triple H said that it's clearly something that they will keep their eye on. So it is on their radar,
Mm-hmm.
and they will do what they feel is right for their business. He said that as content providers, the WWE competes against everything. So you have to watch and monitor everything. But he reiterated that they will continue to do what's best for WWE. Now, this is interesting because the WWE has for ages said that they're not a pro wrestling company. They are competition. Their competition is shows on Netflix, is
Mm-hmm.
shows on regular entertainment networks, award shows, etc. Where to me, this is really looking at it, and I don't know if you agree, wrestling company competing against a wrestling company.
Yeah, I do agree. I think that I have two comments on that. First, I think Triple H gave a great answer based on his position that he holds in that company. Because had he said, "Oh, yeah, we don't pay attention to that. It's no big deal," that would have been insincere, and everyone would have called him on it, and people would have said, "Oh, they're really scared. They're really worried. That's why he's acting that way." So to have said, "Oh, yeah, it's not on our radar" or something, that wouldn't have flown with wrestling fans. Um, I think he gave a bit of honesty in the, yeah, we'll pay attention to it like everything else. And then I think he politely minimized it by grouping it into, just another show coming on. We compete with every show. And so I think Triple H, said exactly what he should have said for his position. My position on it is I think that in actuality, they are paying far more attention to AEW than they are to whatever show's coming up on Netflix. You know?
Oh, I agree. I
Yeah.
totally agree with you. And
So
Chris Jericho uh, I saw this on some reports too. Chris Jericho was saying, that Triple H is everything's cool with he and Triple H. You know what I was thinking though?
what's that?
I don't know if anyone else is thinking this, but what if? I love what ifs. What if the WWE offered now I know the cons are behind. They've got all this possible TV stuff going on, but what as if to keep these people not as an enemy, what if they offered them a prime spot on the WWE network? What would you think of that?
Um, I think that would be something that could be kind of interesting because I know they've talked about doing that with like Evolve, and there's always been that kind
Yeah,
of rumor that
yeah,
that's something they've been trying to iron out. I think for AEW, it wouldn't be the smart thing to do because then you're not your own thing. You're under their thumb. You're under their umbrella, and I don't think they need that to be what they're trying to be because they're not trying to be uh, Evolve or any of those. I keep using that as an example, but they're not trying to be Evolve or Ring of Honor or Impact, and that's I don't mean that to be derogatory towards those companies, but
yeah,
they
yeah.
are trying to be on a larger scale because they do have the financing behind them to put them on that larger scale. So no, I think the WWE, I mean, that would make sense for them to offer something like that if they were interested. But AEW, I would say, you have to think about what you're trying to do here, and you're not trying to be the WWE's, fourth level show, because they're never going to put anything over NXT or Raw or SmackDown. So, but I mean, it's an interesting idea. I just don't think it's something that would actually happen.
Okay, all right. So there we have it. Headlock on headlines. And Josh,
Oh, you know what, Bill? There's
what?
one more headline that we were talking about off
Oh
air.
yeah, yes,
Ronda
yeah,
Rousey.
yeah.
There's
And
been a,
again, it's a rumor.
yeah,
There's
there's been a lot of
nothing.
rumor going around. I've seen things that have said that she's leaving after WrestleMania 35. That they've always known this, and her contract's up. I've also seen things that clearly state that her contract is not up
Well,
for another
I've
few
got
years.
a WWE spokesperson, um, and I've seen this online, said
Mm-hmm.
that her contract with WWE is until April 10th, 2021.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, she's going to be there for a while, but if the rumor is true that this is something that's been known all along and planned all along, and she wants to start a family, then look, she might be gone for a year. Um, but if she left immediately after WrestleMania, look, I mean, she might be back the night after the next WrestleMania. Who knows?
Well, maybe she's already with child.
I don't think she'd be wrestling if she
Well,
was.
if it's early on.
I'm pretty sure that
Come on, Josh.
that
She's the toughest woman on the planet.
Yeah, I'm not an OB, but I'm gonna recommend that she not wrestle if she's
Right. Can you see that
pregnant.
visit going into a general GP while she's on the road? No, I wouldn't recommend this. She knocks him out.
You know what? You have an imagination that
I do.
I can
I
only
do.
aspire to one day have. Um, so, but yeah, so that's a rumor at this point. But I think that if this is a plan, they know this is what's going to happen. I've always been a big fan of people going away for a little bit. As I've heard Jim Ross quoted in saying, "Go away, learn a new hold," and it's kind of like that's like the way of just saying, get out of the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Get out of the spotlight for a little bit, and you'll be even bigger when you come back. And
Okay,
I
so
think,
Josh,
yeah,
I'm leaving till episode 50. Have a nice show. Bye.
okay. Well, welcome everybody to So Says Shernoff, the
Wait a
podcast.
minute.
I'm
Wait.
sorry. No, but I think this would be a great opportunity if I were booking this, and then I want to hear what you would do. I would have Ronda Rousey defending the the Raw Women's Championship against Becky Lynch at WrestleMania in the main event, have
Yes.
Becky Lynch beat her, take her out of action, like viciously beat her the way she was beaten by Charlotte. Except instead of having her show up and wrestle the next night, which was one of the worst booking decisions I've seen in a long time, I would
Ronda
have her be
Rousey.
gone. I'd have Ronda Rousey be gone for a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
But
think
no, you
about
can't
how
do that.
huge that could be for Becky Lynch and how huge that could be when she eventually comes back.
Yeah,
It's
but
tailor made.
that would hurt Ronda Rousey's reputation that she's built up as a legit MMA fighter. That's why I don't
No,
think that.
no, because I don't think it would, because it's wrestling. I mean,
Because she's
already.
only acting? Is that what they're going to think?
No, because look, it's pro wrestling. If you're thinking what would really legitimately hurt her, then it's the same thing as Brock Lesnar's training to go back to the UFC, and I mean, if he sells one move from a guy the size of Finn Balor, and then is supposed to return to fight as a heavyweight for the UFC, it's the same kind of thing. So also, I don't think she's ever returning to mixed martial arts. So I don't think she has any intention of returning there. So I think she's not really concerned about that. She made her mark, and
No,
yeah,
okay. All right. So I think Becky Lynch beats her, but not in the devastating way that you're saying that she's going to uh, keep out of it. I think she could say that she wants to reevaluate her career and her life at this point and then go, and that doesn't hurt anything, and she can come back whenever she feels the
Mm.
moment is right, etc.
Yeah, but there's
Or
no. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there.
no, no, that's all right. Or Muhammad Ali did something very interesting that I saw when Leon Spinks beat him. He went into a code of silence. He wouldn't talk to anybody for
Mm.
months. No reporters, no press, nothing. And that would be great for them to steal that and have Ronda just say, "I'm not saying anything. I will be gone for a lengthy period of time," and
Yeah,
walk out.
I mean, for me, I always I look, more of the old school booking mentality of, you have to leave that heat on. It wouldn't even be heat because she'd be considered the face in this with Becky Lynch, but you leave Becky Lynch as this monster star who can spend the next year talking about how she ended Ronda Rousey's. You know,
Sure.
eventually Becky Lynch is going to get to a point where the fans they're still going to love her. They're going to love her. But I feel like in a year's time, might be time to let's turn her heel. Let's do something. Let's see what we can do. Um, and then have Ronda Rousey return at some point as the heel or as the face, or maybe they're both. Maybe it doesn't have to be a heel or face
No,
thing,
that's right.
but
They
but
just
she
have
needs to come back for revenge, and that's
they
my
both
issue.
have they both have very volatile
Yeah,
personalities. They're both good girls and bad girls,
right.
or
And this has been my issue
bad
though.
man and bad girl.
But yeah, but this has been my issue with Ronda Rousey from the start of her WWE run over this past year, is that she doesn't have any fire to her. She doesn't have, there are no stakes. Like, she just kind of shows up happy to be there with a big smile, and then she'll get her angry face when she's starting to do something. But like, and this has been awful with Sasha Banks, where she's so like apologetic for the fact that she thinks she can beat her. Like, that to me just makes no sense, and it's completely out of character for who Ronda Rousey is legitimately. But I also think that you take her out and you put that chip on her shoulder and you make it so that Ronda Rousey, when she does return, it's she comes back as like this, yeah, she has a family now, she has a child, she has, but there's one thing she just could not let it be. She needs a rematch with Becky Lynch.
Oh yeah,
That's what I'm
yeah.
talking about.
You and
So,
I were talking a few days ago after Monday Night Raw,
mhm.
and I was saying to you during that tag team match, the referee was holding the baddest woman on the planet
Mhm.
back from kicking the crap out of Sasha Banks. Ronda Rousey could have just pushed past that referee
Yeah.
and done whatever she wanted to. So that tested my believability.
Yeah, and I think that that's kind of not to get into a whole thing, but that's the biggest issue I think I've had with the WWE as of late, is just there's no psychology and nothing's believable.
Well,
Um,
I don't find that, and this we'll have to do this on another show,
mhm,
but I don't find a lot of it not to. I find a certain percentage of it not to be believable
mhm.
every week. But this is something that just really stuck out. That why didn't she just push this referee
Yeah.
out of the way? But their mentality from a storyline would be, well, then she could become suspended.
Uh, yeah.
Oh, right,
No, I
right.
mean, like I get that. Here's a question. Um, Maybe this would be a great opportunity for us to transition part of our headlines here into our quick picks, since we're kind of talking about Ronda Rousey and the Royal Rumble. Before we get into our main topic, would you like to do some Royal Rumble quick picks?
Absolutely. Do you have the list in front of you?
I am bringing that list up right now, but we can start with Ronda Rousey versus Sasha Banks.
My quick pick,
Mm-hmm.
Ronda Rousey, Sasha Banks will be Ronda Rousey. The reason being, Ronda Rousey has to move forward to get to that spot in WrestleMania. She can't do it as someone who's lost
It
to
ne-
Sasha
it
Banks.
needs the title uh, as well.
Exactly.
I think, yeah,
No,
but
it needs the victory and the title.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, because there's
Yep.
no like, oh, can Becky Lynch beat Ronda Rousey if she's just lost to Sasha Banks? Yeah, I
Exactly.
agree.
Exactly.
Um, all right, we also have on the SmackDown side of the women's championship, we have champion Asuka versus Becky Lynch. What do you say?
Oh, Becky Lynch has got to move forward on that one. She's got to get the belt.
Now, to give a little bit of a spoiler for my show on Fight TV that aired last night, but is now available on demand if you haven't checked it out. So says Shernoff on Fight TV. One of the things that I did touch base on was, and as we're recording this, it has not aired yet. So Bill, there's no way you could have known that I touched base on this.
Okay.
But I predict that Becky Lynch is not going to beat Asuka, and that Becky Lynch will then go on to win the women's Royal Rumble match and get to choose which champion she wants to face at WrestleMania and choose Ronda Rousey. And I also think, based off of Charlotte's kind of interfering a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if Charlotte has something to do with it and sets up for an Asuka defending against Charlotte. That way, you get to basically have WrestleMania with Charlotte and Becky Lynch walking out champions.
Hmm. Interesting.
That's just,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just
I
a
like
thought.
your thinking.
Yeah.
I like your
So,
thinking. Yeah.
um, because I think if Becky Lynch walked out champion, I mean, you can do a champion versus champion, but then it's like,
Well, wait. What is your mentality of Asuka retaining?
my mentality of Asuka retaining is if Becky Lynch becomes SmackDown champion, then she's
Yeah.
SmackDown champion. If
Right.
she doesn't and ends up entering the Women's Royal Rumble match instead and wins the Women's Royal Rumble match, she gets the right to choose either SmackDown or Raw which women's champion she wants to face at
Wait a minute. Wait a
WrestleMania.
minute. I get it.
And
I
that's
get
what
it.
jumps her from one brand to
However,
the other.
however, think what a bigger billboard match this might be with the Raw champion versus the SmackDown champion. And then
I
one champion gets both belts.
Here's the only thing though. What? No, and you know what? And that is something that I could see in a different scenario. I could see if Ronda Rousey is actually going away and the rumors are true, that Becky Lynch, she's the man. She's got both championships now. And of
That's
course,
where
they
I
could
was
then
going with
say
that.
you
Yeah.
have to pick one brand or the other or whatever. But I could see that. The only thing is, you have to remember someone's going to win the Women's Royal Rumble match and they get to pick which champion they're going to face. So the only other thing I can think of that just popped into my head based off of what you're saying, what if Becky Lynch does beat Asuka and Becky Lynch is SmackDown Women's Champion, Ronda Rousey is Raw Women's Champion, Charlotte wins the Royal
Yes,
Rumble
that's right.
and
And becomes the third
challenges
person.
both of them.
Yep. That's exactly what I was thinking.
And she walks out and whoever she pins, that's
She
the
gets
title
that
she
belt.
wins.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ooh.
Ooh. I
Okay.
hope they're listening to this.
I know. Now I wish I could go back and re-record my predictions on my show because I'm
Wow.
actually really, you know what? I hope
We
they are listening. I like that.
we just came across with a great scenario.
Yeah, I really and you know what? And this was fun because this is how like booking teams would do this. You just kind of
Well,
bounce
this is
back
what
and
I
forth, and yeah.
this is what I did back in the magazine days when we would sit down and get a great set of photos. And
Hmm.
what are we going to do with this set of photos? What angle are we going to do? And yeah, oh, that was great. All right, let's move on.
All right. We have a fatal four way for the Cruiserweight Championship, which will be a part of the pre show. That's
Yes,
champion Buddy Murphy versus Akira Tozawa versus Hideo Itami versus Kalisto.
I think that Buddy Murphy will retain the title.
I agree, actually. Um, do you have anybody in mind, that Buddy Murphy could face at WrestleMania for the Cruiserweight Championship? Something that could, um, some opponent that could really, he could really tear the house down with.
Besides Sanjay Dutt,
Oh, that's interesting.
it's interesting.
Yeah. Hey, do you
Um,
think there's a possibility that even if Sanjay Dutt is coming there as a producer or doing something in a non-wrestling capacity, that they might still just have him as a surprise entrant, even just for a one night only in the Rumble?
um, that's interesting, and that also could be happening with Abyss.
Yes, I actually that's my prediction that Abyss is
All right,
going to be
well,
in the
let me get
Rumble.
back to wait a minute. I want to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
back
yeah.
while it's hot in my mind. Buddy Murphy against Velveteen Dream. That's the match I want to see.
Ooh,
I'm a
that would be
big
fantastic.
I'm a big supporter of Velveteen Dream. I've known Patrick Clark since he started. He was down here at Apter's Alley.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great talent.
Now,
Uh,
if you ask him, the Dream has no recollection of who this Patrick Clark is.
no, he doesn't, but I
Yeah.
do. I
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
I do.
But no,
Yeah,
I
that's the
agree with you.
match.
I'm a huge fan of his, and I remember him from when he was on Tough Enough, and I just to see what he has become, like it's amazing. It's so
It is.
he really this is a guy who has not held back, and I think he's going to be a major player one
Yeah,
day.
I
Um,
guarantee it.
hey,
Let's get back to our quick picks
before
here.
we get back to the quick picks, though, real quickly, speaking of the major players, what about the Major Brothers reuniting on Raw? Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins.
Oh, right. I
I know I'm
totally
calling them the Major Brothers. They haven't been
yeah.
that in like 10 years, but still,
No, really, I didn't remember that.
yeah,
Interesting. I mean, just interesting.
yeah. As a fan of their podcast, I just like the
I
idea
know
of
you
them
are.
being
I know you are.
being fans. Yeah, so
I
uh,
say interesting. Let's see what they're going to do with them.
yeah, I hope they do something because the tag team division, as you know, the Raw tag team champions are not defending their championship at the Royal Rumble. I'm sure they'll be in the match, but yeah, man, that we need more in the way of tag teams. But let's talk about the SmackDown Tag Team Championship match. Champions The Bar, Cesaro and Sheamus, defending against Team Besties, I believe is what they've been called, something like that. The Miz and Shane McMahon.
All right. So my pick for that is that the champions are going to retain. This will start a major battle between Shane McMahon and The Miz, and this will take them to a match at WrestleMania.
I agree almost completely, except I actually think The Miz and Shane McMahon are going to win the titles, and then they're going to lose them at some point between some point maybe around like Elimination Chamber or something like that. They're going to lose the titles, and that will be
Okay.
the ref. But I think
Either
they're
one
going to
of
drag it
those
out a bit.
is acceptable to me.
Okay. Um,
But
uh,
they're not gonna win at the Royal Rumble,
okay.
in my opinion. There's going to be some sort of finish there that's going to be, well, you should have done this, you should have done this, and
See, and I think they're going to drag it out longer because they still have Elimination Chamber to get through. And that's
yeah,
why I
that's
think they're going
true
to
too.
take the titles. I think they're going to drop them maybe back to the Bar at Elimination Chamber. And that's when they'll do what you're talking about.
Time will tell.
Yes. Another pre-show match for the United States Championship. Man, that championship's getting absolutely no love these days. Rusev
Yeah.
defends against Shinsuke Nakamura. What do you think?
I think Nakamura is going to get the title back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
Do
I
you
do.
know when his contract is up?
No,
I do not. So
I do not either. But it doesn't matter. I think they need to put that back on him. He was even though everybody loves Rusev Day, I found Nakamura to be a very compelling presentation.
Yeah.
And
When
yeah,
presented properly, I agree. I think
correct,
he's, you know.
correct,
Um,
correct.
all right.
Not time to say sayonara to him yet.
No, that was borderline right there.
No,
But
that's
no.
goodbye in Japanese.
Okay.
Why?
Okay.
I wouldn't. Would you say Auf Wiedersehen or any other language? That's not borderline. Not time to say sayonara. That's
Oh,
his country.
okay. I agree. Okay, that's fine.
Back
I take
in
that
our
back.
country,
I take.
we'd say see ya.
Okay. Touche. All right, Daniel Bryan champion versus AJ Styles.
Oh, I love this feud. I
Yes.
absolutely love this feud. And Mr. McMahon, get in here, you. Um, God, this is a hard one to pick, but I'm gonna pick AJ Styles to win.
What do you think about the rumors that AJ Styles is gonna leave? That his contract is up.
It's a rumor. I don't think he's going to leave. He's well taken care of. He's got a family.
Hmm.
He's never, I don't think he ever envisioned being where he is at the level that he's at. No.
So here's the thing about that though. Um, I feel like from you said he has a family to take care of. Chris Jericho has gone on record saying that the contract that he was offered and subsequently accepted from All Elite Wrestling was the biggest contract he's ever
Uh-huh. Yeah.
signed.
Yeah.
So a guy like AJ Styles coming off of a tremendous run in the WWE, I mean, I would not be surprised if they looked and they said, that is a guy we are going to give him an
Oh, I'm
absurd
sure.
amount of money.
Sure.
I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know.
Then at the end of the show, the end of the day, AJ Styles beats Daniel Bryan. That's my pick.
I think
That's
Daniel
my quick
Bryan's going to
pick.
hold on to the title. So we'll see.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Brock Lesnar, champion of the entire universe versus Finn Balor.
So this has been talked about, and of course, this past week on Monday Night Raw, they went to show that Finn Balor could defeat anybody,
Mm-hmm.
anybody. So if it's a screw job finish, Finn Balor will win. It's not going to be a clean victory. Braun Strowman somehow is going to get involved in this thing.
All right, so men's Royal Rumble. Let's start with that one.
Well, Braun Strowman's got to win it.
What about Drew? Drew McIntyre.
No, I think Braun Strowman is. I'd like to see Drew McIntyre win it, but I think for the sake of what they're doing and the storylines, it's going to be Braun Strowman.
I think you might be right. But man, I would rather see at WrestleMania. I'd rather see Brock Lesnar and Drew McIntyre. I think
So,
they could have
so
such
wait,
a good match.
it's going to be Braun and Drew at the end of the Royal Rumble, and I'm not sure how he's going to get um, Drew out
I feel
unless
like
Brock Lesnar interferes.
yeah, it's okay.
Or it could be the other way around. It could be Lesnar pulls Braun Strowman out of the ring or something. I don't see it as a
Yeah.
clean finish. I really don't. Or it becomes Abyss. Wouldn't that be something?
Oh man, that would be. See, I would like to see Abyss and the Undertaker at
Oh,
WrestleMania.
that'd be great. But
Um,
remember now, there is still a portion of the WWE universe who has no clue who Abyss is.
yes, but I think we've learned enough. If they knew who AJ Styles and Samoa Joe were, they knew who Abyss was.
Well, they were brought up in NXT. So they
Joe
were
was, but not AJ. AJ
yeah,
showed
but
up at the Royal Rumble.
right, and I forgot that. Thank you for straightening that out.
Oh, no
But
problem.
but I think there is a group of fans that follow everything that knew who he was,
Hmm.
but I still think there were some fans who are like, "Oh, who is this guy?"
Yeah. Well, I
Yeah.
know. I think that's fair.
Okay.
Okay, and finally, the women's Royal Rumble. We touched base on it earlier. I think Becky
Charlotte.
Lynch and you think Charlotte. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
and then I changed my mind to
Yeah.
Charlotte because we came up with that awesome storyline.
Yeah.
So, all
Yeah.
right,
Because
well
they're
that's our
hearing this. They're hearing this.
yeah, I think so. So that's our quick picks. And I think at this point it's time to move on to our main topic, Bill.
To our special section,
Yeah.
as we used to say in the magazines. And we put out a tweet and called out on Facebook and Instagram for fans to send in their picks for who their favorite tag team was growing up and who their favorite more recent tag team is. And we got a lot. And you and I decided that you and I were going to do something different because I grew up watching wrestling in the late 50s and the 60s. So there were a gob, I'm going to use the word a gob of tag teams that a lot of fans who are fans of the contemporary product may never have heard of, but a lot of the after chatters that have followed my career are around my age range, 30. I'm joking, excuse me. And they're going to remember some of the tag teams that I grew up watching and were my favorites.
Yeah.
So
So
why don't you take the lead here and why don't you guide us through this section?
okay, well I think the best way to start would be for us to talk a little bit about your favorite tag teams. And before you even get into who the favorite tag teams were, who did you what drew you to tag team wrestling? Because it's definitely, I've always seen it as a unique art form, a unique presentation for wrestling. It's not just as simple as, oh, well, now there's twice as many guys. I think there's something magical about tag team wrestling that we don't really see very much nowadays. But
Very simple. You say it's an art form. With me, it was very simple. It was different than everything else on the wrestling show.
okay.
It was like the midgets and the girls. It was something different. It wasn't your regular one-on-one wrestling match. That's what drew me to tag team wrestling.
Okay. Um,
And the
so who?
characters, because when I was growing up, the characters of pro wrestling were uh, much more believable, much more uh, uh, vicious or talented than
Hmm.
most of the tag teams I've seen today. As I'm
Are
choking
you?
on my
I was
words.
gonna say,
Edit
is
point.
this your final after chat? All right. So
You can leave that in, by the way. I'm fine with
no,
that.
I will. Um, so all right.
Producer.
Yeah, that random producer who we fired, and I guess now I'm back to work again.
You are.
Um, so who were some of your favorites when you first became a fan of wrestling as a kid, strictly as a kid,
Yeah,
forgetting.
that's exactly where I made a list.
Okay.
Um, and I'm going to go down these. And the first one and these are in no particular orders, were Eddie and Jerry Graham, the Graham brothers.
Okay.
They were one of the most vicious tag teams ever, ever. I'd never seen a tag team at the beginning when I was watching as vicious as these two guys, how they beat up their opponents. And there was no in my mind, oh, this is fake and this guy. No, this was real. These guys were killing their opponents. And Eddie and Jerry, I remember the very first issue of Wrestling Review that I bought in 1959, which was the premier issue of Wrestling Review that Stanley
Hmm.
Weston put out. They were on the cover, and the story was the Grahams bleed real blood. Yeah, so the Eddie and Jerry Graham. You want me to go down the list and just
Yeah,
give you little highlights? The
absolutely.
the next one was Red and Lou Bastine. They were half brothers. It was Red Bastine and Lou Klein, and they had they used to come out in these Greek outfits that said I think it was Greek. That said Vendi Vicky Vicky on them, and all the fans. They never did merchandise back then, but all the fans wanted to dress like them, look like them. their tag team, their fast tags in and out of the ring were just unbelievable. And they were good guys. They were not hated. They were
Mm.
a great good guy team. Then you had the original Fabulous Kangaroos from Australia. That was Roy Heffernan and Al Costello, managed by the very loquacious Wild Red Berry, who I used to love to imitate. He would go on and use words that I think were never in the dictionary until he said them. And he was also a junior heavyweight wrestling champion, but the Kangaroos were extremely competitive and colorful wrestlers. They would have on the Australian Bushman hats, and they would throw out paper boomerangs to the fans with their pictures on it, and where you could write to them because there was no internet back then, of course.
Yeah.
Then there was the bald head, vicious team of Skull Murphy and Brute Bernard, and they were just plain scary. They were terrifying. When you would see them come down the aisle out of the dressing room, fans would run. They were so scared of these two guys. And Brute Bernard didn't speak well, but he'd go, "Me and Murphy, we eat together, we drink together." They were absolutely terrifying. Then we had the good guy team, the extreme good guy team of Mark Lewin and Don Curtis, who eventually went bad and cost me to become. Uh, I hated them so much that there's a story in my book. Josh, is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken, but I think we've heard.
Still available.
I think you've told this story on the show as well.
Well, in case no one's listened to it in the past, but there is a story in my book of how Lewin and Curtis got me thrown out of Sunnyside Garden in
Yes.
Queens, New York.
By
Then
the
there
book.
was Antonino Rocca, the greatest barefoot wrestler ever. He was the first barefoot wrestler I'd ever seen, and I think he might have been the first barefoot wrestler ever. And Antonino Rocca, who was the greatest high flyer, he had his legs insured for like $10 million through Lloyd's of London. I think it was 10,000. And I used to tell my parents that I wanted to get my legs insured like Rocco because I wanted to be a wrestler. But he teamed with the Puerto Rican sensation Miguel Perez, and they had some great feuds with so many of the teams I just mentioned above. But Rocca never got pinned. It was always Miguel Perez.
Hmm.
Then there was two guys from the Alps, the Bavarian boys, Harry Wenzel and Rudy Satursky. This was the first time I really saw a shtick in a tag team in wrestling. They came out in the Bavarian costumes, dancing and singing. So then I got a few more. I've got three more. The Magnificent Maurice and Handsome Johnny Barrand. They were managed by a guy who eventually became the Grand Wizard and Abdullah Farouk. And Johnny Barrand was so great. He would carry a mirror into the ring and he'd grab the microphone with one hand and he'd have the mirror in the other hand. He'd go, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the most beautiful wrestler of them all?" And then Magnificent Maurice would take the microphone from him and go, "Win if you can, lose if you must, but always cheat. Bring on our opponents." Yeah, it was great stuff. Then, of course, the classic, very brains and brawn, Nick Bockwinkel and Ray Stevens, who I had only seen through the magazines until I had seen some 8mm movies of them when I was growing up. They were AWA and out in California. And finally, two of the toughest, most vicious guys ever, Bruiser and the Crusher. And I think you may have seen or read that the Crusher, the wrestler who made Milwaukee famous, is getting a statue in
Yeah.
Milwaukee. Yeah, yeah. So those are the teams and there was the great Pompero Firpo and the great Antonio.
Oh yeah.
Uh, yeah, oh yeah, very good, Mister. And
So,
so those were the teams that I remember so vividly from when I was growing up as a kid.
and I think right off the bat, that has to say something about the difference in tag team wrestling then and now, because um, I don't know any fan that could rattle
I
off.
remember them from 60 years ago,
Yeah, and
Josh.
I don't know how many kids do you think are going to be in that much detail remembering that many tag teams from today? They're not going. What are they going to say? Oh, Bobby Roode and Chad Gable. They were really my cup of tea. Like, you know, and that's not anything disrespectful towards their talent
Not at all.
individually or even as a team, but it's just not. It's not what it used to be. And
There's nothing to grasp onto in terms
right.
of something classic. Like these guys all had something classic about what they did.
And
And it
so
was no outrageous gimmicks,
right.
but it was and it was good wrestling as
So
well.
for my generation, for me, the tag team, you know, my favorite tag team of all time is the Hart Foundation. Bret
Oh,
Hart,
what a
Jim the
great
Anvil
choice.
Neidhart. But if I had to think of the teams that stood out to me from when I was growing up, and what age would you put? Just because I want to kind of give the same age range, what age range would you have been during all those times?
12, 13.
Okay. So yeah, so for me it was really I mean I was younger with the Heart Foundation, but the Heart Foundation, the Rockers, Demolition, um believe it or not, I was not a huge fan of the Legion of Doom. I didn't dislike them, but um they were not my top team. And
But did you like the Road Warriors?
so, you know, growing up kind of a well, you know, I know that was kind of a joke, but I also take that literally because the Road
Yeah.
Warriors were I've always seen it as the Road Warriors were who they were in the NWA and in the AWA and WCW, but I see the Legion of Doom as who they were in the WWF. And yeah, I mean, I always kind of liked
They
them. I
weren't
mean,
the
don't
same team.
no, and
See,
don't
at
get me
that point.
wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have pictures of my face painted like Hawk, when I was at like some party or something. So like, I liked them. I just, for me, they're not the greatest tag team of all time as a fan. You
Yeah,
know,
because you were not uh really watching vividly when they were just kicking ass in Georgia Championship Wrestling
no,
and Jim Crockett Promotions.
no,
Yeah.
I was a
Yeah.
no, I was a WWF guy. So for me, it was like, you know, Demolition kind of came first to me. You know, there's always been a debate of whether or not they were a knockoff of the Legion of you know the Road
Of the
Warriors.
Road Warriors. Yeah.
But you know, to me, they came first, and so I actually have a more special place in my heart for Demolition than I do even for
Okay.
the Road Warriors. But I mean, look, they're so great.
Go on with your list,
But
though.
no, so going on with my list, and I don't actually have one written down. So going off the top of my head, I would have to say I really liked, as I got like a little bit older, love the New Age Outlaws. I thought they
Oh,
gelled
I forgot all
really
about
well.
them. Me too.
Um,
Yeah.
love the Steiner brothers. That was a
I've got that
team.
on my more contemporary. I've got a list of about
Okay.
8 or 9 contemporary teams that,
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Steiner brothers.
oh, incredible.
But
Well, hold on one
yeah,
minute. Remember when I was talking about tag teams like let me look at my list here of like the Graham brothers
hmm
and the Kangaroos that were great technical wrestlers.
sure.
The Steiners upped that ante. They took what those guys I was mentioning back in the 60s and brought it to another level.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you know, it's interesting because um, I was gonna say as far as teams that I really loved at a time. Um, if anyone was to say, "Hey, what's the best one of the best tag teams?" and you're gonna name something that Davey Boy Smith was involved in, you're gonna say the British Bulldogs. But for me, because I think this is such a subjective uh, question for fans, it's based off of your time period, and I became a wrestling fan right like after the British Bulldogs, where, you know, of course, years later, I'd go back and watch their tapes, and I have a huge amount of respect for what they were. But as a fan, strictly as my memories as a kid as a fan, I loved the British Bulldog and Owen Hart as a tag team.
They were great together. They
Yeah,
were great together.
it was just, and there was no flash with them. You talked about some of the teams that were really great that they weren't really gimmicky. I mean, Owen had, of course, he had his stuff with the Slammy Awards and things like that, but they really there was something about them. They just gelled, they just clicked, and there's something
They were
about that team.
brothers. They were
Brother-in-laws, yeah,
yeah,
but they were
yeah,
they were
yeah,
family, and it's just something about that. But it's funny because you think about times one of the biggest times in wrestling, the biggest time in the history of wrestling was the Attitude Era. And to me, that was one of the worst times. That was really when tag team wrestling, I thought, with the exception of the New Age Outlaws, I think tag team wrestling really started heading
yeah.
downward at that
Getting
time.
stinky. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think that it's ever recovered. Nowadays, obviously, you and I agreed that the Young Bucks were the tag team of 2018. And a lot of people could argue that they're the best tag team in the world today. But there's not, I mean, there
No,
aren't too many other.
there's not
No.
classic tag teams coming
No,
out.
and you got
Can
the Briscoes in Ring of Honor. There are people who nowadays have really solidified themselves as tag teams. But if you're going to the WWE and you're looking at that, I mean, yeah, you can say the Usos have been they've been a team for a long time. The Bar really, created an identity for themselves, but it's just not there to me.
No. Can I give you the just without going into a lot of detail, a
Hmm.
list of some of the other people that I have here?
Absolutely, yeah.
So of course I have the Legion of Doom, the Road Warriors, Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell, the High Flyers.
Okay.
Yeah, they were tremendous. The Midnight Express, every version of them.
Okay.
The
Who's
Rock
your
and
favorite
Rollers.
version?
What's that?
Who was
Oh,
your favorite version?
Condrey and Eaton. Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Um, the Briscoes, Jack and Jerry.
Hmm.
Yeah. The Rock and Rolls, the Koloffs. Ivan and Nikita Koloff were
Hmm.
excellent together. How about the Fantastics? Tommy Rogers and Bobby Fulton.
Yeah, I believe I'm
And
actually going to be seeing Bobby Fulton tonight.
yes, well, to make sure you tell him I said hello. The
Will do.
Steiners you mentioned, of course. The Valiant Brothers,
Hmm.
Jimmy and Johnny, the first two. They were the best of the Valiants. Um, the Anderson brothers, who were the Anderson brothers were like the closest I could tell you were Ole and Gene were the closest to the Graham brothers of the '60s, definitely.
So
Um,
speaking of, to interrupt for a second, there's
no,
also
please.
Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard were a great team
Oh
as well.
God, were they so good? Yes, great big loss for Jim Crockett Promotions when they left and went
You
to
know what?
WWF.
You know what? A big loss for Jim Crockett, but I feel like the WWF never really took advantage of it, and I've heard that it was kind of, totally. I mean, Tully Blanchard at one point he left kind of, kind of unexpectedly, but yeah, never became what it should have been. And if timing was just a little bit different, you would have had. Of course, they were called the Brainbusters then, but they had Bobby Heenan as their manager. Could you have imagined if Ric Flair had come in a little bit sooner and you'd been able to pull off the Four Horsemen, throw one more guy in there,
Oh
pull off the
man.
Four Horsemen, but instead of, and nothing against J.J. Dillon, but a WWF version of it, and you have Bobby Heenan as the manager?
Whew.
And think
Wow.
about how close that was to happening.
We should have been you should have been booking back then. You know who I forgot?
Who's that?
That and this is '70s. Professor Tanaka and Mr. Fuji.
Oh, yeah.
Oh God, two of the you talk about this and Captain Lou Albano dressing up like them, and
Hmm.
they were absolutely incredible. Why
So,
don't we go to some of the fans
yeah, well,
picks?
I'll go to that in 1 second. I just wanted to, when you were saying that, and you said Tanaka, it made me think of the Orient
Yeah,
Express.
I know exactly where you were
And
going with
and
that. Yeah,
I'm thinking about that. And if you really look at the Orient
Tanaka and
Express,
Diamond.
yeah, if you really, well, it was well, you had Paul Diamond, right? He was what do they call him? Kato.
Yes.
But who else was there? There was another member of the team.
See, I knew them
before
better
Kato
from
came
the,
in.
yeah, you see, I'm looking at them from the AWA
Well,
days, not
right. So
WWF.
so they
Tanaka and
weren't
Diamond were in AWA first.
right. And what were they called? They were
Oh,
not
I don't
Orient
remember.
Express. They were
Yes, yes, yes.
they weren't that. Let's see.
I,
I'm actually
go,
gonna Google it because it's gonna drive me
go,
insane.
go right ahead.
Um, but
Baron Cicluna and King Curtis. I'm going way back, man.
let's see. They were in the AWA. I want to
I can
say
hear all the
Bad
Apter
Company.
chatters. Who?
Bad Company is what they were called.
Bad Company.
So yeah. So then, um, Sato. Yeah, Sato and Akio
Akio
Sato.
Sato from
That was
Kansas
the
City.
Orient Express. And then they brought in um, Tanaka's former partner, and they put him under the mask and made him. I believe it was Kato.
Yes.
Um,
I'm
but
going to
yeah,
give.
so
I'm
the
going to go back when nobody's going to remember.
okay.
Giant Baba and Haru Sasaki. There you
Hmm,
go. Late
interesting.
50s, early 60s.
But the but the reason I brought up the Orient Express was because that's a team they never held the titles. They were never really like major players, yet at the same time they kind of were. And I felt like that period, and I really can't speak to. I mean, I know of the people you've talked about. I've seen tapes of their matches, but I can't really speak to
No.
what they were because it wasn't my time. Um, but thinking about a time that you and I both experienced, which was the early 90s. So say like 1990 to let's say 90 to 96, right? Or 90 to 95. That kind of like that time period in there. Cuz that brings in you've got Owen Hart and the Bulldog at the tail end of
Oh,
it.
wait a minute. We both forgot a huge team.
Who?
Get the tables.
Oh, the Dudleys. Yeah. Well, you know
How
what?
could
And
we
that goes
forget them?
that
Yeah,
kind of okay. And then of course you have Edge and Christian, you have the Hardys as well.
yeah.
You know what? I think the reason, because I said the New Age Outlaws, and I think the reason that I didn't go to those other ones is because I'm thinking back to the New Age Outlaws was kind of I was maybe 14. By the time you had the Dudleys and Edge and Christian and all that, I was already I was in high school and it was, I don't know, it was just, I guess I don't look back at that as, I was already starting to train to be a wrestler myself. So I don't know that I can't look at that time the same way, you know? Um,
Oh, no, of course not. Of course not. As
but
I can't look at that time the same way either.
right, well, the time here, because when you're engrossed in the business and you're taking pictures of these guys and you're writing stories about them and you're becoming friends with them, is obviously going to be a very different memory than you as a kid, growing up
Oh
and
yeah,
watching.
my
But
my kids stuff was just such a golden era
but
there.
why do you think what do you think made some of these you just called that the golden era. So I was talking like 90 to 96, but you're talking like from your time period as well. What do you think made those eras so unique that you can, because to me, like I can't look at it the same way of like 2008 to 2012, like, and be like, oh, tag team wrestling. Like, what made that so special? And that was why I brought up the Orient Express, because it
Okay,
seemed like
okay.
everyone
I'll tell you.
had a personality. Everyone
I'll
had
tell
something
you.
unique.
I'll tell you. But before I tell you, we forgot Marty Jannetty and Shawn
No,
Michaels.
I mentioned them. I did.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what made it special when I was growing up was that it was treated as a sport
Hmm.
uh, back then. So there was no interviews at the arena at Madison Square Garden when you went there.
Hmm.
It was classic tag team wrestling. They wrestled, and winning and losing meant something back then. And there were no major screw job angles in most of them. It was not, it was a different business completely back then. You weren't sure if it was real or, as we used to say, fake back then. It was an era where, well, you know what? I guess I could explain it more, which that was special to me, and you have your special era
Yeah.
too. So you can't really put your finger on what made that era when you were growing up that special,
And
but it
I
made you a wrestling fan.
yeah, and it's
That's
something
what
that I
was it.
think we're gonna have to, um, 15 years from now, we're gonna have to talk to whoever those 10-year-olds now. Those 10-year-olds are. Man, that's I can't
Yeah.
even talk today. Whoever those 10-year-olds are now, um, we're gonna have to talk to them in 15 years and just say, how do you feel about it? And who knows, maybe they will have something.
You know what?
Everybody is very high on the Revival right now, and don't get me wrong, I think they're great. Uh, Terribly misused, but I think they're great. But I also, I'll be honest, I think a lot of people, we had a lot of after chatters say the Revival is currently their favorite team, and I don't know if that's by default or if that's because that's the cool thing to be saying nowadays. But
You know why? Because they were a real non-shtick tag
yeah.
team.
So let's
They
let's
really.
jump into
Well, wait. Before we go into the to our Twitter phone here,
mhm.
I think what I'd like to do for our next week topic, if you agree, as co-host, is is what made you a wrestling fan?
Okay. I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Um so
I don't mean you. I mean our listeners,
yeah.
but you too.
Oh, thanks.
Don't answer it. Don't answer it.
um so our after chatters on Twitter, we're not going to go by their name because there were a lot. So I'm just going to kind of mention something. Like I said, a lot of people said nowadays um, the Revival. And again, I don't want that to be misconstrued as my thinking they're not that they're nobody's favorite. I think they're great. But I just don't. I think now it's kind of become like in vogue to be, the Revival. They're not being pushed, and they're the greatest team in the entire universe. I think they're great, but you know, uh, Young Bucks were mentioned by a couple of people there, and obviously we spoke earlier that we
Just
found
a
them to
couple
be.
of people.
Yeah. We heard Usos. Some people said, as far as I'm just talking about the current, nowadays, and there are some people who said nowadays, nobody. So and I think that's fair. I don't think the teams really stand out the way they used to. Got a
No, there's
bunch of
no focus on tag team
not
wrestling.
at all, which is ironic considering they're now bringing in tag titles for the women's division. It's I don't know. That's a whole other conversation for another
Whole other
day.
show.
But there's a lot of Demolition, a lot of Heart Foundation, a lot of Midnight Express, Ricky Steamboat and Jay Youngblood.
Oh yes. Now I covered them extensively down
Mm-hmm.
in Jim Crockett Promotions, and they were like really at the top of their game. You had two excellent pro wrestlers. I don't know how I didn't put them on that list.
I mean, at that time there were so many. Look, we forgot about Edge and Christian and the Hardys and the Dudleys until you remembered, the Dudleys there, and and
Yeah.
that's not to say anything negative about them. That's just it was, there are a lot of teams that there just aren't anymore. There isn't that kind of thing. And speaking of the Hardy Boys, and this is an interesting thing too. This person put growing up toss up between the Hardy Boys or X Pac and Kane. And
X-Pac came were they were a temporary tag team,
they
but
were
yeah.
tag team champions.
Yeah, I know.
But it's interesting again because I don't know this person's age, but they may
What
have
who
been at
is
a
it?
point.
Who is the person,
This is
Josh?
Michael Corvin
Okay.
at Soup Heat Corvin.
Okay.
So Michael, yeah, tweet us and let us know how old you are. But no, you could imagine that somebody who, if that was when they first became a fan or that was the height of their fandom, that X Pac and Kane, that could have really resonated with them. It's kind of hard for us to think about that now, but in the moment,
But
we
but
also have
but
a lot of
now it's
British
like but
Bulldogs,
now it wait, now it's like more of, oh, they were a team. See, they
right?
don't have that
Didn't
indelible
stand the test
memory.
of time, right?
Yeah, they don't have that indelible
Right,
memory that the Kangaroos have in my head.
right. We've got the Blackjacks. Um,
Oh, Lanza and Mulligan,
mm-hmm.
another
Yeah,
great team, not just in WWF, but they started off with Bobby Heenan in the AWA.
yeah. But
What
yeah,
was their
we
big hold? What was their big move, Josh? See if you remember this one.
I want to say the Lariat.
No, that was
No.
Stan
Well,
Hansen.
I know, but it was. You know what I'm
Well, you
thinking?
weren't
No, I'm
around during
thinking.
these
No, no,
days.
no, no. I'm thinking. I'm thinking Bradshaw in the new Blackjacks. That's
So
that's that's what
I'm
I was
going.
picturing. Well, they looked
That's good.
exactly the same. That's what you
That's
know.
good.
That's what I was
That's
picturing.
they were masters of the claw hold. They had the claw gimmick.
Ah,
Oh,
yes, yes. I
right.
can picture
Yeah.
them now holding with the glove on their
Right.
hand and
All
holding
right.
up their hand with the claw. Uh, Freebirds. Um,
Another. See, now you brought up another team that I
yeah,
totally. Now that you're bringing them up, is how could we not have had them on a list of memorable tag
yeah.
teams?
And again, I think that just speaks to how many memorable teams and what a huge part of pro wrestling tag teams were. And nowadays, they're just it's just not there. It's
Now, the
really
Von
not there.
Erichs to me do not qualify because they
No, they
weren't
were
regular
family.
tag teams. Yeah, but they weren't regular tag teams.
No,
They
they were a
competed
family that
mainly in
came
single
together
matches.
to face.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, the Freebirds.
But yeah. But so yeah, so that's more or less
Well, what about
our
some
list
more
there.
of the comments from our Twitterverse?
There's a few more. I mean, there were a lot of the same, but we've got War Kings as far as today. We've got Heavy Machinery, who just got called up to the main roster, and have yet to do anything impressive up there. But hopefully
They've
that will
been put
change.
into shtick right away. They should
Yeah.
just be a killer team.
Yep. And then what do we have here? Bludgeon Brothers, which you know what? I mean, obviously, with the injury to Rowan, that kind of that took away their steam. But hey,
They
here's
never
some.
did it for me. They were both individually. I liked them
Mm-hmm.
as characters and all that, but for some reason they just never grabbed me.
So I loved them in the Wyatt family originally. Um, I thought they were kind of a cool team there, and then I feel like the Bludgeon Brothers thing, it was different. It was cool, give them a different look, but it never really worked for me either. Um, Luke Harper, I think, is fantastic. Rowan, there's just something that doesn't click for me.
Okay,
Um,
you're entitled to your opinion.
but yeah, but I think Luke Harper is I think um, he's got that it factor. I think in a lot of ways.
What was
But
some of the other that were probably Chris Jericho and Lance Storm, of course,
um,
way back.
Chris Jericho
Stampede
and Lance
Wrestling.
Storm, they were
Yeah.
the
Thrill
Thrill Seekers.
Seekers.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm just throwing out names here of people that I want somebody to say, well, why didn't you mention so and so?
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, the idea is we're mentioning favorite teams. Thrill Seekers were not my favorite team.
No, well, you
So
had never seen
and
them,
that's
so
and that's kind of the thing is we're saying, oh, we forgot about the Dudleys, we forgot about Edge and Christian. Well, they weren't my favorite team. I think
yeah.
they were great, but they weren't. Heart Foundation was my favorite team, and close seconds to that were the Rockers and Demolition, and that's so that's kind of the thing for me in different eras. New Age Outlaws were kind of my favorite, but I wasn't really. I guess Edge and Christian would be from that time period with the Dudleys and all. Edge and Christian would have been my favorite team, but
Okay, Josh.
yes.
Ishishishishishishish. Do you know what that means?
Uh, no, I was about to
Well, I
call
thought
an
you knew that
ambulance for
only
you.
no, only because I made that up. It's something you would know. Every time I every time I would see two of my favorite people who were tag team wrestlers, I would always remind them what they said when they got in the ring. Ish, 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 ish,
Talking about
ish,
this
ish, ish, ish.
the
Yeah,
Samoans.
yeah. Alpha and Sika,
Okay.
the Wild Samoans. What a great tag! When we talk about
Yeah,
favorite great tag teams,
they were a great team. They really were. And then look, I mean, you can think about there's a time period with like the Head Shrinkers. They never were what you know, they never were what the Wild Samoans were. Um, but hey, you know what's another one that I loved, absolutely loved, and forgot about from this time
ooh,
period?
ooh.
Too Cool.
Oh, they were great.
Yeah.
They were great.
Um,
What about the Nasty Boys? We forgot about them
So
too.
you know what? The Nasty Boy. Well, I mean, I had some heat with the Nasty Boys because they effectively ended the Hart Foundation at WrestleMania 7.
That's
So,
correct. That's correct.
that's something I'm still holding on to these days. But but yeah, no, the Nasty Boys. They were an interesting team because um, no one was ever going to accuse them of being great wrestlers. But they had a personality to them, and if you're going into that time period from the WWF, their WWF run, you got to think about natural disasters were a great team.
Oh, Earthquake and
Typhoon.
Typhoon. Yes, I was going
And
to say Tycoon.
but speaking of Tycoon, that could bring you to the Million Dollar Man and IRS, Money Inc.
Yeah, they
I
were a
thought they
great
were a
team as well.
great team as
I
well.
love dropping these names here. By the way, this is great.
Yeah. One of it was actually the first time I ever went backstage at a wrestling show. It was actually before I met you. And I went backstage. A friend of mine's dad worked for Prism, and their offices were at, I guess he could get in there to the Spectrum. So we went backstage, and I got to meet a bunch of different guys. I got to meet Animal from the Legion of Doom, who I did not recognize because he had his makeup off. And I got to meet, I guess it was Bo from the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah. Oh, another great team.
Yeah, they were a great team. Never really went as far as I could have seen them going in the WWF. And then when they were in WCW, there was no personality to them. There was no character
Yeah.
to them,
Yeah. Yeah. They
Um,
were bland.
yeah, but
What about
the reason,
what?
well, hold on. The reason I'm telling
Go ahead.
the story is
I'm sorry.
because I saw from afar. I didn't get to meet them, but I saw from afar, Earthquake and Typhoon walking down the hallway, and they came out of a door and turned the opposite way of where I was, and they're walking down the hallway in the Spectrum in the locker room, and I had never seen two people so gigantic in my life.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were just absolutely enormous, and they looked almost like from behind. They looked almost identical. It was just crazy. So for
Yeah.
such
I
a
knew them
team
both.
for a team that I think was kind of makeshift in a lot of ways, I loved the natural disasters. I thought they were great.
Were you a fan of the Rock and Sock Connection?
Um, I was. I wouldn't really consider them like a tag team exactly, but um, to me at least. But I was a fan of them. I thought they were amusing. I like the Headbangers. I was a fan of the
Yeah,
Headbangers back in the day.
they were okay. They were okay.
Um, But yeah, I mean, there was just so many, and I think we kind of went from our favorite teams to just, hey, who can we
Just
remember?
name dropping.
But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like the last 10 minutes of this podcast have just been us going, here's a team, here's a team.
Yeah, that's great
Um,
though. I mean, this
it
is,
is, and it's fun to reminisce about these teams because you
it
don't
is.
realize how many there really were, and so many of them. I'm expecting to have at least another team inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. I wish it could be, maybe it's time now for the British Bulldogs, now that they're both gone, because I had heard rumor for a while that there had been,
That would be great.
that it wouldn't have looked good to have the Dynamite Kid on stage. In his condition, it wouldn't have looked good for the business. That is a rumor I've heard. That is not, I can't say that that's actually why they weren't in there, but I'd have to say, why else? Why else wouldn't you put the British Bulldogs in there? I mean,
Well,
nothing against the
we
Bushwhackers,
don't know
but
we don't know the politics of
no, and
of
but I will tell you one person that I think should go into the Hall of Fame this year for the WWE, and there was an article written recently about this gentleman. He actually happens to be a Hall of Famer for the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, and that is one Bill Apter. I don't know if you've heard of him
Oh,
before.
I thought you were talking about
Um,
Jerry Jarrett.
no, well, no, I'm talking
Well,
about
thank
you.
you.
I
I'm
Now is the
totally
time
flattered.
in
I'm
my mind. I think that you've had a resurgence in the business with the Apter Chat
Yeah,
podcast,
yeah,
with,
absolutely.
your book over the last few years, and all the
Wait.
conventions.
What book?
Oh, is Wrestling Fixed?
I didn't know it was broken.
So I think, and now, look, WrestleMania is going to be in New York. And I just think that, uh,
My kind of town.
yeah, I think it's time. And that's not me just blowing smoke, because everybody knows I have no
Thank you.
problem, giving you a hard time on the show.
Right, not
Um,
blowing smoke.
but no,
Right.
I genuinely, I mean, I know it's an honor you would love to have. Um, and you're not going to be out there, begging for it by any means. But so I'm happy to do that for you. And I would like to see, if they're listening to us to book the women's match at WrestleMania, maybe they'll listen to us as well to put Bill Apter in the Hall of Fame this year. I think
Well,
it's
thank
time.
you. And I want to thank Ryan Bowman from one of my favorite websites,
Yeah,
thegorillaposition.com, for writing
it's one of my
such a
favorite
classy.
positions.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote such a classy story. My brother-in-law David made a comment after reading it. He says, "Isn't it nice to be alive and able to read your own eulogy?"
Hmm.
Yeah,
You know
that
what?
was
And
really great.
that's actually really well said, because you think about, and I mean, I think we're hoping to have you here for a while, Bill. But, you think about, obviously, with, Mean Gene Okerlund passing recently, and just the outpour that he's gotten. It is a really cool thing when you can kind of see your fans, give that to you. Or I should say, I think that's a really cool thing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So it's
Well, you
one.
know what I think is going to happen? I think if this happens, it's not just going to be me. It's going to be George Napolitano.
Oh yeah, and just,
Maybe,
just as deserving. That's,
yeah,
that's,
but
um,
what I'm saying is not for us to get up and make speeches, but we would be on a package like
like the
like
legacy or whatever they
yeah,
call it.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm fine with that. However, if I was able to make a speech, I have a request from Ted DiBiase about something that I would have to do during the speech. So if I'm not going to be in the Hall of Fame class coming up, I'll tell you the story after that
Okay.
happens. All right. But if I am in it, you'll hopefully see me do it.
And I just want to put it out there that it goes without saying, yes, I absolutely will induct you. You don't even have to ask. I don't even want to give you the opportunity to tell us who you'd like to have induct you. I think I'm just happy to accept it
I understand that.
without you even
I
saying
got
a
it. I
word.
got it. And I'll write it. You can read Ryan Bowman's um,
Yeah.
story aloud there.
Sounds good.
All
No, but I
right.
did, but remains to be
Thank you,
seen,
Josh.
and we'll see. But yeah, I think this has been a fun episode reminiscing about tag team wrestling, and man, WWE, step it up, give us tag team wrestling. AEW, you guys want to make a name for yourselves? Be the place to be for tag team wrestling. You have the best tag team in the world today, running the show. Let's make it happen.
All right. All right. As you know, you can find me on Twitter at Apter1Wrestling, or you can email me. I'm on Facebook too. You can email me at bapter@onewrestling.com. And don't forget, next week, we'd like to get your opinions at our Apter Chat Twitter or Facebook at www.theafterchat.com or on our Facebook page about what made you become a wrestling fan.
Yes, and if you hear any screaming in the background, that's actually my cat walking in with a toy in her mouth. So,
Great. Is it
yeah.
a wrestling figure?
No, it is not. Those
Okay.
are uh, locked up in my Detolf Ziggler.
Josh,
Um,
tell us all about your Fight TV show.
yes, my Fight
Where
TV
people can
show,
find you.
So Says Shernoff, they aired on yesterday. If you're listening this Friday, yesterday they aired my first two shows that were on YouTube. Were kind of re-edited and put together for Fight TV, and then they premiered the newest January 2019 episode, where I did a little bit of headlines, did a little bit of soapboxing, and also a preview for the Royal Rumble. That is available on demand, so please go to Fight TV and check that out. Let me know what you think. You can send me your tweets at So Says Shernoff. You can send stuff to that show at Shernoff Show. Also find us those same handles on Facebook. And you can find us at the Apter Chat, literally at the Apter Chat on Twitter, facebook.com/the Apter Chat. Go to the apterchat.com, click on merch, buy some shirts. They're good. They feel good. And if you use the promo code through Monday, Rumble, you will get 15% off. So now's the time. If you've been sitting on that saying, I really want to get an After Chat shirt, but I'm not sure, dude, give yourself 15% off. Why not? Why wouldn't you? So
By the way, I don't want us to forget such an important issue here, that this show today was brought to you by
Smart Hold. Yes, I was actually going to read that at the very end. So thank you for reminding me. So I'm going to read you a little thing about Smart Hold here. It's quick and concise. Are you a business owner or office manager? Do you have message on hold? If so, how much are you paying? If you're paying more than $35 per month, you're paying too much. Do yourself a favor. Check and see how much you're paying. If you aren't using Smart Hold as your message on hold provider, you're simply paying too much. For only $35 per month, Smart Hold gives you unlimited message changes, pro voice talent, and best of all, no contracts. That's 0 contracts. Be smart. Get Smart Hold and go to smart-hold.com. That's smart-hold.com. And we thank them for sponsoring the After Chat this week.
And do not spell out dash.
No, it is just the dash line. It is not. Yes. Yeah. So I think that's all I have to give.
Thank you, Mac Davis, for the creator of Smart Hold, for sponsoring us this week. And Josh?
Yes, Bill.
I think there's only one thing left to say.
Then let's say it.
We'll see you
at the matches.
25, and we're still alive.